This video is brought to you by catbeast.com. Design your own custom snapbacks and hats.
Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about one of our least favorite progressive outlets on YouTube, AJ+. Before we jump into it though, a special thanks to CapBeast for sponsoring today's video. They're a great and quality cap making company who will customize your hats to your heart's desire. Check out their website and link below and help support the show by going to catbeast.com today. Now back to this video. This time we're finally going to cover the failed Newsbroke series on AJ+. That's hosted by Francesca Fiorentini. Previously I looked past this smaller show mostly, and we focused on covering the bullshit on AJ+'s main channel. But now they've put Newsbroke on the main channel, so they're trying to push it back down our throats again. Previously, no one ever really watched or cared for the Newsbroke series. It was a small little side project that no one really knew about, so covering it before would be like covering some kind of small town writer no one's ever heard of and no one cares about. In fact, before Newsbroke was brought onto AJ+'s main channel, Newsbroke's own side channel did so poorly and had such a bad reception, the series was actually canceled and shelved about a year ago. And this was highly justified too, since their videos did so poorly and the channel didn't grow and was overall not getting any interest. No one cared about Newsbroke, although I did enjoy leaving a comment on their site from time to time. For example, I actually had the channel itself respond to one of my comments when I made fun of them for having their camera at a bad angle in their videos. You see, all of the original Newsbroke videos are pretty unwatchable, not only because of the bad and forced liberal politics, but also they filmed them all with this weird, crooked, jarred camera angle. Obviously they were trying to go for some kind of stylized artsy Dutch angle or something, but it really failed, and it made you constantly want to turn your head slightly to the right to try and adjust and level things. And in the end, Newsbroke proved I was right on this too, as they appear to have taken my advice, since the new videos finally fixed that glaring flaw, and now they've leveled out their camera properly now that Newsbroke's on the main channel. But they couldn't fix their bad and biased takes on everything though, and they unfortunately couldn't make their host Francesca any less cringy, unfunny, and annoying either. Funny how she shares the same name as the MTV Decoded series host Francesca Ramsey, because these two have a lot of similarities actually. Both are failed comics and now wannabe television hosts, and they both work for major corporations with a goal of pushing their anti-Trump, pro-liberal propaganda in every way possible. Put that all together and basically you could say Francesca Fiorentini is like the brown or Arab version of Francesca Ramsey, and both of them are equally off-putting, wrong, and biased, not to mention anti-white. Today's video from Newsbroke is called 5 Ways to Beat Trump at His Own Game in 2020, and right out the gate, this is their return video title and idea after a couple years off the job. They're going right back into the losing battle they had to quit before, and they're going into it with the same bad tactics and ideas, while at the same time expecting different results. Regardless, let's check this new video out anyway and see how Francesca Fiorentini and Newsbroke are going to fail and fall flat on their faces once again.
What do we need to defeat Trumpism? A bear trap and a Big Mac? If only it were that easy. I'm Francesca Fiorentini, and in this episode of Newsbroke, we're looking at how to finally wake from this political nightmare come 2020. It's going to mean learning from past mistakes and maybe even taking a page out of Trump's book, which should be pretty easy because it's mostly just pictures.
That's a great introduction, Franny, except it's not great in the way you think it is. This intro isn't great like it's funny, well thought out, or makes good points. No, this intro is great for first showing us how unfunny and unrelated a lot of this show's so-called comedy is. And also, it shows the dramatic anti-Trump angle of this show, and its channel and network to a greater extent. Newsbroke is a show you see on AJ+ now, which is a sub-channel of the Al Jazeera news network. And that company is a pro-Muslim, anti-American television network that broadcasts all over the globe. And it's also funded by the Qatari government. AJ+ even has to have warning messages about its Qatari funding below each video, as we've mentioned before. So with that said, the background to this production is pretty clear. And what the host Fran here actually said goes completely in line with that too. These people hate Trump, they hate conservatives, and they hate outsiders. And they're considering Trump's whole presidency a political nightmare because of this. And this of course ignores the fact fact that most people in our country are doing better and great, and many Trump supporters and moderates and centrists were all enjoying a more prosperous and free United States because of it. But prosperity and freedoms like the freedom of speech or Second Amendment, these aren't things that the people at AJ Plus want, nor do the liberals. They don't like Trump and America and our success and freedom because places like Qatar want us to be an authoritarian state controlled by liberal dictators just like them. And it's almost impossible not to consider how hypocritical and ironic these kinds of criticisms are coming from a Qatari-owned operation. They love to chastise our government and leader for being a supposed political nightmare, even though he won the toughest election of our lifetime, and Trump has gained great country and worldwide support during his time in office. Meanwhile, Qatar, they're run by a monarchy, with leaders who don't care about public support because they don't need votes to get into power. They're not elected officials, they're just sons of the previous kings. So it's quite funny for them to call us out, all things considered. It's funny when you consider Qatar is run by an archaic system of kings, who also impose Sharia law, by the way. So just keep all that in mind while these wackoos on the Newsbroke show try and shame our president, government, and country, because it makes it a lot more fun when you remember how hypocritical and bad their own side is.
It's been over a year since we've been off the internet, or 666 trapped in Stephen Miller's episode of Black Mirror, and a lot has happened. We had the longest government shutdown ever, 6 indictments of Trump staffers, a very long report about obstruction of justice. It's not totally clear because we have this new attorney general who ironically really hates laws.
Talk about biased reporting. It really couldn't be clearer that they're trying to make Trump look bad here. But really all they have is false allegations against him. Sure, some Trump staffers were indicted, but how many were actually arrested, convicted, or jailed for crimes? None that I can recall. So people accusing them of crimes and wrongdoings over and over again doesn't make them look bad until things are proven to be true. Really, all these false allegations do is just make the left side look bad, and it makes them look petty, stupid, and desperate. And the next bit here is portrayed just as misleading too. Next, Franny goes over the long debunked Russia collusion narrative, and Francesca here still has the gall to try and pretend part of that's true or something. It's not. Russia collusion was a hoax, and the Mueller report produced no proof of any crimes and no indictments or arrests. No one got charged with anything, and this story has been long over. It's been over and debunked for months now, but this genius Francesca on Newsbroke decided to still pretend Russia collusion was a problem when it's really not. And I hate to bring this comparison up every time, but it is hard not to because it always works. Let's just consider this accusation is coming from Newsbroke, an AJ Plus show owned by the Qatari government. Well, isn't it a little hypocritical for them to attack Trump for supposedly getting help from Russia in the election? I mean, Qatar is another foreign country like Russia, and they clearly want to try and get Democrats elected. They want to influence our elections, and they want to get their liberal ways pushed into a foreign nation like us too. But for some reason, it's wrong, illegal, and unjust, and the worst thing in the world if it's Russia trying to help Trump get elected and influence politics that way. But if countries like Qatar try and influence American politics in their own ways, like trying to get Democrats elected, well, that's a-okay, according to them. And they may think their hypocrisy is justified, but I don't think so. It's certainly not fair, reasonable, or justified in the slightest, but this whole attitude they have of it's okay when we do it is going to be an ongoing trend with this channel and Newsbroke and other liberal-leaning organizations for that matter.
Oh, we also have another accused sexual assaulter on the Supreme Court, systematic child abuse at the border, and the White House has gone through more officials in a year than I have voodoo dolls, which means I'm behind.
So now she brings up Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who also got accused of many terrible things last year. And not to beat a dead horse here, but this is yet another time Francesca here pretends that accusations make a person guilty. There's a couple other times we just went over in the last section, and there's actually another time that I had to cut out from the video earlier, and I didn't even show yet. It is worth mentioning now though, since this pattern of assuming allegations are true and make the person guilty is getting worse. Along with the other allegations presented already as facts, Franny also brought up the Stormy Daniels story as an attempt to be funny that failed. Francesca's not funny, and she can't even make you laugh accidentally. If she farted, it would probably be cringy and off-putting. And she also can't make a point without stretching the truth, assuming guilt, or misrepresenting everything in the whole situation. And that's not even mentioning this cringy Trump voodoo doll joke yet, which she still thinks is funny, but I just see it as her fantasizing about killing our country's leader for years upon years like some kind of crazy person. Clearly, we've got a heavy case of Trump derangement syndrome going on today, and it appears to be just getting worse and worse with each passing second.
But there has been some good news. The midterm elections were a breath of fresh air in this Dutch oven of authoritarianism. authoritarianism. A record number of voters turned out to elect the most diverse Congress in American history.
As if being diverse is a good thing on its own. It's not. And who the hell is being authoritarian in our government nowadays anyway? She drops that authoritarian term like she doesn't even know what it means anymore. Listen, Francesca, if anyone is being authoritarian in 2019, current year, it's your side of the aisle. First of all, the leftists want big government controlling everything in the country and every aspect of our lives. Meanwhile, us conservatives want less authority over us, and we want more freedoms and rights and the ability to do what we want when we want, so long as it doesn't impose on others. For example, while the left is trying to censor everyone who is not politically correct, and they want to shut down and silence opposition speakers who talk out of turn, well, on the other side, our side, right-wingers champion free speech completely. We want everyone to have a chance to speak freely and have a voice and to do what they want within reason. So no, it's not conservatives who push ideas like hate speech, which is an authoritarian way to shut down people's speech. It's really liberals who use that term to censor and silence people they don't like. And back to the Qatari examples again, because we just can't avoid them, and well, that's especially true when this Qatari-run project is calling American politicians like Trump authoritarian. Just think about it. Look in a gosh darn mirror, AJ+. Your country is run by a monarchy/dictator, which is pretty much the most authoritarian government you can have. Couple that with the strict rules and codes of Sharia law, and I think you guys get the point here. Francesca is calling us authoritarian when really her side is guilty of that thing far more. And that's basically the quintessential definition of the word projection, for those who don't know. And projecting, it's never a good look.
Which includes Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's become a one-woman dunking machine on the powerful.
People are more concerned about helping oil companies than helping their own families? I don't think so. I don't think so.
I get tingles. This is my ASMR.
Okay, this is a good example of liberals and normal people living in completely different worlds. It's almost like we're watching two different movies while sitting in the same theater. While most sane people and conservatives, we can clearly see how childish, dumb, and politically corrupt the freshman Congress member Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is, but meanwhile, on the left side, they've become so deranged and biased and so desperate to shield their own side from deserved criticism, well, they're actually defending AOC and pretending she's some kind of smart, super good politician, when obviously she's not. Sure, she's loud and a popular politician who's managed to get on the news a lot, but mostly it's fame for bad reasons. And many think her ideas are bad and her socialist plans for our country are terrible ideas. Next, Francesca surprisingly admits how hard her side messed up in 2016. They lost the election, of course, and for good reason. And it's actually a good thing that the show can realize that and acknowledge it. We'll see if they actually take it the right way and try and do better at leading this country and its people, but I do have my worries. And I suspect instead of trying to do better in the polls by making better arguments and giving the people what they want, instead, I feel like most liberals just want to lock things down, ban their opposition, and take away the voice of their opponents, so that they're the only ones left to speak, vote for, or take over the reins of the government. Basically, many Democrats think they were wrong in 2016 because they didn't cheat enough. And this time in 2020, they want to rig the entire election. Not sure where Newsbroke and Franny lie on this stance so far, but I do have my doubts, and I can already see them repeating some of their same mistakes.
And not repeat the same mistakes. I mean, Newsbroke straight up hired a mariachi band on election night to celebrate his defeat. That's how wrong we got it. Some of it is out of our hands, considering the federal government hasn't done much to stop election interference, and the Electoral College is somehow still a thing.
Yes, Electoral College is still a thing. Why wouldn't it be? This is the system that has elected our presidents for centuries. But for some reason, it's wrong now once the Democrats start losing in it. And this is exactly what I was talking about when I said liberals really don't want to learn any lessons here. They aren't going to try and win honestly and virtuously by winning over the hearts and minds of the people in each and every state for the election. No, instead, after they lose, they want to change the rules and then make the election be run a totally different way, which just so happens to make it so Democrats would win each and every time. How convenient for you and your side. Can't say I agree with this method though. It basically amounts to a roundabout way of cheating if you think about it. Just imagine, for example, if a football team lost the Super Bowl and then in the next season they petitioned to change the league's rules in a way which would make it so their team would win every year going forward. To get more specific, they could be a team with a great running game game, but they don't always score touchdowns in the end. Well, that's a problem they could fix by changing the rules and giving teams 1 point for every 5 yards run. And this change would obviously greatly benefit the team suggesting it, while also putting all others at a disadvantage at the same time. Clearly, this is ridiculous and it would never happen. And it would be a laughable suggestion, but this is pretty close to the same logic liberals are using when they suggest we abolish the Electoral College in the United States.
And to get an antidote, you have to understand the disease and remember why Americans voted for the guy and why some might like him. I know, racism. Bye. For the NPR listeners, that's economic anxiety. Yes, absolutely racism, and we'll delve more into that in episodes to come.
Next, Francesca blatantly calls people who voted for Trump racist, based on no real facts or logic at all. Really, this is just a classic left-wing bullying tactic. Everyone they disagree with is a racist or a sexist or transphobic or xenophobic. Take your pick of these buzzwords listed, but clearly, their favorite to use is still racism, a claim they make so easily now, they don't even try and support it anymore. And ironically enough, if Newsbroke really wanted to address their side's problems as a way to defeat Trump in 2020, well, calling everyone racist is certainly one of their big issues. I honestly would recommend they stop calling people racist altogether at this point. Even if people are actually racist, no one is going to take a liberal's word on it anymore because they've just cried wolf too many times already. In the end, we can clearly see Francesca Fiorentini and Newsbroke are not in the right place or mindset where they can actually address their side's problems and fix things by the time this next election comes up in a year. Clearly, Franny is not only bitter and suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, but also, like many parts of this video, she's still repeating many of the same mistakes liberals have been making since far before 2016, calling others authoritarian when really you are, and also using false sexual assault allegations as weapons, which their side still assumes to be true without proof, and even they're also pretending the Russia collusion narrative wasn't debunked and it didn't fall apart many times over. This, along with still calling everyone racist again for no reason, well, these are the same problems and issues the left has had for years. So I really don't think Franny and the Democrats are going to fix them and win anything by 2020, since they're clearly repeating their same mistakes without any correction. Not surprising, since leftists do love to double down on things. And also, it's worth mentioning another reason why they won't defeat Trump. It's because he's doing really well, and his approval ratings are sky high. Not to mention, there's no good standout candidate on the left side who could even come close to beating him. What do you guys think? Is Newsbroke a new current year version of MTV Decoded? They both have minority hosts named Francesca who spread liberal propaganda while making really bad jokes at the same time. Lastly, would you guys like us to continue this Newsbroke coverage? Because they have other videos we could go over too, so if you want that, if you're interested, hit the like button on this video. If we get, say, 6,000 likes, we'll cover another cringy Newsbroke and Francesca Fiorentini post. Thanks for your time and thanks for watching today's video. Leave comments below and tell us what you thought, and we'll see y'all next time.